That evening, at an upscale restaurant in Seattle, a cold, reserved female CEO walked in with her son. But just a few minutes later, the little boy ran over asking to sit next to a poor UPS driver who was there with his daughter. And from that moment on, the lives of 3 adults and the hearts of 2 children changed forever. Seattle at night always carries its own distinct kind of beauty. Glass buildings reflecting warm golden lights, chilly, damp streets, and the breath of a city that never truly sleeps. And right in the center of that luxury, the Sterling Bridge Steakhouse glowed brightly, like a kingdom reserved for America's elite. Tonight, Alexandra Monroe, the CEO known for her nickname, the Ice Queen of Tech Valley, stepped into that elegant space with her 7-year-old son, Noah. She chose this place for a carefully calculated appearance, gentle, warm, just enough to soften the icy image American media had attached to her for years. But as soon as the crystal chandeliers reflected across the wooden floor, Noah lightly tugged on his mother's sleeve, his small hand turning cold from fear. "Mom, I don't like crowded places," he whispered. Alex hadn't answered yet when Noah's eyes were suddenly drawn toward a hidden corner. A small table, the kind no one pays attention to, except him. There, a man wearing a faded brown UPS jacket was patiently cutting pasta into small pieces for his daughter. The little girl, Emma, around 8 years old, ate while laughing, her pure laughter breaking the sophisticated silence of the restaurant. The 2 of them didn't stand out at all in that shimmering room, but their warmth, their simplicity, made Noah freeze in place, as if he was seeing something his luxurious life had never given him. Alex frowned slightly and said, "Noah, don't stare." But the boy shook his head, his eyes wide with sincerity. "Mom, I want to sit with them." A small request, but enough to crack Alex's world. Just a little. Alex bent down slightly, trying to keep her voice gentle, though it still carried the familiar sense of control of a CEO. "Noah, you can't. We already reserved a table in the main area." But Noah didn't listen. He tugged lightly on his mother's hand, his eyes not leaving the small corner table where the simple father and daughter were sitting. "Mom, I want to sit with that girl. She looks so happy." That sentence made Alex pause. Happy. Something she believed she had bought enough of for her son, through private school, tech toys, and expensive gifts. But it turned out that found it instead at a humble table, where which could have dossed as a daughter restaurant manager approached, speaking softly but with clear implication. "Madam Monroe, that family may not be appropriate for this section. I can arrange." He hadn't finished his sentence when Alex lifted her gaze, a gaze sharp as a blade, the gaze of a woman used to making million-dollar decisions every day. "My son decides." Just 3 words. But the entire restaurant seemed to sink into silence. Curious eyes began turning toward them, a billionaire CEO and a poor UPS driver in the corner of the room. Alex walked straight toward Mike and Emma's table. Mike looked up, almost choking, when he saw Alexandra Monroe, the face that appeared on the cover of Forbes, standing right beside him. Is there something I can help you with?" he asked awkwardly. Alex didn't beat around the bush. "My son wants to sit with you 2. I'm asking for permission." Emma immediately brightened. "I'd like that." "You can sit here," the little girl said, enthusiastically pulling out a chair. Mike looked at his daughter, then back at Alex, still not understanding what was happening. Meanwhile, Noah had already pulled his small chair next to Emma's, his eyes lighting up as if he had found something he never knew he'd been missing. 3 adults, a billionaire, a poor driver, and a very anxious manager, stood there in a moment of hesitation. And the two children? They were already seated side by side, chattering excitedly about the food as if they had known each other for a lifetime before this. The atmosphere around the small table suddenly became different. Amid a restaurant filled with expensive suits and the soft clinking of silverware against porcelain plates, the laughter of Emma and Noah rang out like a fresh breeze. Emma, with her bright brown eyes, showed Noah a drawing of a dragon she had been coloring in her workbook. Noah let out a delighted laugh, shy but sincere. "This dragon is cooler than all my toys at home." Emma answered innocently, "It doesn't need to be expensive. It just needs to be fun." A simple sentence, but it made Alex glance at her son. Noah had never talked to anyone like this, lightly, naturally, and happily. In contrast to the children's lively chatter, the air between Alex and Mike was filled with a silence that was hard to name. Alex sat with a straight back, her elegant posture making it seem as if she belonged in every powerful room in the world. Mike, meanwhile, sat slightly hunched, his rough hands resting on his knees, as if afraid that a wrong gesture could make the chair beneath him disappear. Alex observed him, and for the first time, she noticed something she had never paid attention to. A man who wasn't wealthy, wasn't polished, but the way Mike used his knife to cut each piece of pasta for Emma was meticulous, patient, and fully present. A presence that Alex, with her packed schedule, her team of assistants and nannies, had never truly given Noah. Noah watched Mike caring for Emma and instinctively leaned toward him. "Uncle Mike, can you cut mine like that too?" Alex froze, as if the question had pierced straight through her. Mike looked a bit startled, but he smiled gently. "Of course, buddy." He turned Noah's plate around and carefully cut each piece, while Emma sat beside him, cheering as if this were a sacred family ritual. And that moment, simple as it was, made Alex's throat tighten. Not out of jealousy, but because she realized a painful truth. Her son needed something money could never buy, something she had forgotten for far too long. None of the three adults said a word, only the soft sound of the knife cutting and the children's laughter rising, filling the space between two adults from two opposite worlds. The air around the small table seemed peaceful until curious, judgmental eyes began to focus on them. A group of high-end customers at a nearby table, people familiar with luxury and power, started whispering, their voices loud enough to reach Alex's ears. Alex Monroe sitting next to a UPS driver? What a cheap publicity stunt. Look at his jacket. It looks older than the tablecloth. Muted laughter, mocking glances. The entire restaurant seemed to participate silently. The gap between the two worlds suddenly lay bare right in front of them. Mike lowered his head, his shoulders tensing with the instinct of someone far too used to being judged. He clenched his hands, just wishing the meal would end quickly so he could take Emma home. Alex heard everything. But what stunned her wasn't the insults aimed at her. It was the fact that they were being thrown at the man sitting next to her son, a man who had done nothing wrong. She was about to speak, but the first person to jump up was Emma. She stood on her chair, eyes blazing with anger, her voice so clear the entire restaurant heard it. "My dad is better than everyone here. My dad helps people every day. My dad is a real hero." Guests turned their heads. Some let out mocking snickers, but Mike's face went pale. "Emma, sit down." He feared she would get hurt. He feared the truth of his status would wound her. But before he could finish, Noah also stood up beside Emma, his blue eyes filled with determination. "Yeah, Uncle Mike is really good. He smiles at me, and a lot of drivers at my house never smile. I like Uncle Mike more." That innocent sentence struck straight into Alex's heart, not because it embarrassed her, but because it revealed something she had never dared to face. Her own son felt distant from the very adults in their home. The atmosphere in the restaurant shifted completely. Those who had mocked now fell silent in the face of two children fearlessly protecting someone they loved. Alex looked at Mike. For the first time, she didn't see him as a poor man. She saw him as a father his child trusted without hesitation. A man whose simple, calm presence had opened Noah's heart in a way she never had. And that moment of childlike courage shook the icy walls inside Alex's heart. The atmosphere in the restaurant had just settled after the children's fierce defense. Suddenly a hurried voice rang out from the entrance. "Alex, we have a big problem." It was her personal assistant, sweat still unwiped, breath unsteady, face pale. "The board is holding an emergency meeting. Someone is trying to activate the executive incompetence clause. They have evidence to remove you." Alex shot to her feet. The whole world spun. In that moment, the whispers behind her, the mockery, the pressure, the sleepless nights, all crashed into her at once. Her hands trembled. Her heart raced to the point of suffocation. Her breaths came short and shallow, as if someone were squeezing her lungs. And then, Alex collapsed back into the chair, her head falling against the table. The once bustling Sterling Bridge restaurant fell silent. Noah screamed in panic. "Mom! Mom!" Mike stood up instantly, not a second of hesitation, not looking around to see if anyone else would move. He rushed toward Alex with the speed of someone who had run into life-and-death situations many times. "Alex, look at me. Can you hear me?" His eyes scanned rapidly. Pale skin, abnormally fast pulse, gasping breaths. He recognized it immediately. "Acute hypoglycemia." Mike snatched a sugar packet from the nearby coffee tray, dissolved it in cold water, and brought it to Alex's lips. The servers hadn't even processed what was happening before Mike took control of the situation like a professional. "Step back. Let her breathe. Don't touch her." His voice wasn't loud, but firm enough that everyone obeyed. Emma wrapped her arms around Noah, trying to soothe the boy who was shaking with sobs. Noah looked at Mike with absolute desperation. "Please, save my mom. Please." Mike placed a steady hand on Alex's back, guiding her to breathe more slowly. After several long, stretching minutes, color gradually returned to Alex's face. She opened her eyes weakly. Why did you help me?" Mike looked at her, his expression calm but carrying a rare seriousness. "Because your son is shaking with fear. No child should watch their mother collapse like that." That simple sentence froze the entire room. Alex looked at Noah clinging tightly to her, then at Mike. In the eyes of that poor driver, there was no judgment, none of the things she was used to seeing in the upper class. There was only compassion. A pure compassion. Alex couldn't remember the last time she had felt. Her assistant stood there, still stunned by everything that had just happened. How did you know what to do so fast?" Emma blurted out. "My dad used to save people. My dad is a doctor." The room froze. So did Alex. Mike lowered his gaze, clenching his hands slightly as if he didn't want to revisit the past. A man in a worn-out UPS jacket, the man the entire restaurant had looked at with pity, had once held the lives of soldiers in his hands on the battlefield. A secret cracked open right in the eye of the storm. And everything was only just beginning. After Alex regained consciousness, the restaurant manager hurriedly suggested moving them to a private VIP room to avoid attention. But for Alex, the attention had already happened. She had seen the looks, curiosity, judgment, doubt. the very things she had spent her entire life avoiding with strength and success. Now, she had collapsed, and the person who picked her up wasn't her assistant, nor her security. It was a man who was almost a stranger. Inside the quiet VIP room, Alex leaned back against the leather chair, her breathing steadier now. Noah sat right beside her, holding her hand tightly. Alex looked up, her eyes still blurry from the dizziness. "Mike, earlier, you handled everything like a real doctor." Mike hesitated. He didn't like talking about it, but Emma quickly answered for him. "My dad used to be a medic doctor in the Army. He saved lots of people." Mike frowned slightly. "Emma." The little girl sat down, mumbling quietly, and Alex fell silent. "A poor UPS driver used to be a military doctor?" Mike sighed. He knew it was time to say it, not to prove anything, but because the child beside him deserved to know her father wasn't someone who gave up. He looked down at his hands, calloused, darkened by sun, dust, and labor, the same hands that once held the lives of hundreds of people. "I used to be a trauma doctor in the military," Mike said softly. "The most severe emergency cases went through my hands. I was familiar with the battlefield, familiar with bringing people back." Alex listened without the icy CEO demeanor anymore. Just a woman trying to understand a man. Mike swallowed hard, fighting something rising in his throat. "Until the day my wife died." The room fell still. Noah stopped breathing for a moment, and Emma leaned her head softly against her father's shoulder. "She had complications during surgery. The doctor in charge called me for advice while I was at another hospital. I guided them over the phone, thinking I could help." Mike's hands tightened, the knuckles turning white. "But the surgery failed. I was saving someone else, while the most important person in my life was leaving this world. I wasn't there. I didn't hold her hand for the last time." His voice cracked, restrained but breaking. "From that day on, I didn't deserve to stand in an operating room anymore. I left everything, the degrees, the position, to give all my time to Emma. Just the two of us." Alex said nothing. She couldn't say anything. She looked at Emma, small yet strong, holding onto her father's arm as if they had long been each other's anchor. And then Noah looked up, his eyes still wet. "You saved my mom, just like you saved everyone else. I think you're still the best doctor." Mike froze. His eyes suddenly reddened. Alex glanced at Noah, and in that rare moment, she saw her son connect with someone deeper than she had ever seen. A part of the ice wall inside her melted, slowly but surely. The atmosphere in the VIP room settled after Mike's heavy confession. But Noah did not. The boy kept looking at his mother, then at Mike. His eyes shimmered with tears, as if every emotion he had held inside for so long was finally breaking through. Suddenly, Noah pressed his hand against his chest, his breathing turning rapid. "Mom, don't fall again. I'm scared. I'm scared you won't wake up." His voice trembled so much it could break a heart. Alex startled, grabbing his shoulders. "Noah, I'm here. I'm okay. Don't be scared." But Noah shook his head, becoming more and more panicked, his breaths short, his hands icy, his body stiffening as though drowning in an invisible fear. Mike recognized it instantly. A panic attack. Not just because his mother fainted, but because of the fear of losing her, a feeling Mike understood far too well. He knelt in front of Noah, lowering himself to the boy's eye level, his voice deep, warm, steady. "Noah, look at me." Noah tried, but tears were already streaming down his lashes. "You're safe. I promise. Your mom—" "No." Mike glanced briefly at Alex, then continued. "You don't have to be scared anymore. I'm right here." The boy sobbed hard. Mike lifted his hand to his own chest, demonstrating. "Breathe in with me. 1, 2, 3. Noah tried to follow. His breathing was still choppy, but it slowly found a rhythm. "Now breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Good. Again." Emma walked over and gently placed her hand on Noah's back like a little big sister. Noah began to feel the presence of all three people around him: a father, a mother, and a stranger who somehow made him feel safer than anyone else. A few minutes later, the boy's breathing eased. The tightness in his chest loosened. His hands stopped shaking. Noah leaned into Mike's shoulder, softly, trustingly, as if that was the only safe place in Seattle that night. Uncle Mike, you smell like clean air," Noah whispered, tired but relieved. Mike let out a quiet laugh. Alex couldn't speak anymore. She only looked at the two of them, her son and that man, feeling as if someone was peeling away the layers around her heart. Not hurting, but touching, as if reminding her that love and kindness don't always come from the people we expect, but from the ones we never imagined. Alex placed a hand on Mike's shoulder, so light it felt like a passing breeze, but her voice was filled with sincerity. "Thank you. You just did something my entire team has never been able to do." Mike didn't say anything. He only nodded. But in his eyes, there was something that made Alex know this moment would change everything. Not long after Noah had calmed down, the VIP room door burst open again. Alex's assistant, face pale, phone vibrating nonstop in her hand, nearly screamed, "Alex, the video of you fainting in the restaurant? It's already gone viral. On TikTok, on Reddit, on X, it's everywhere." Alex gripped the armrest tightly. She understood all too well. In the tech world, just one moment of weakness is enough for people to use it as proof that you're no longer fit to lead. "The board is holding an emergency meeting. Richard Hale is trying to trigger the loss of executive capacity clause. They want to remove you tonight." Alex's breath grew heavier, not because of illness, but because of betrayal. Perhaps throughout her entire career, she had prepared for every risk, except this one. People. Her assistant panted. "And worse, the low-level assistant on your team was the one who recorded the video. It's spreading like wildfire." Alex closed her eyes. She felt her chest tighten as if someone was tying a rope around her heart. But Mike sat up straight. His eyes shifted from gentle to sharp, the kind of sharpness belonging to someone who once analyzed battlefields in the dark. He asked succinctly, "When was the video posted?" "About 8 minutes ago." "Who reposted it first?" "An anonymous account. Looks like a bot." Mike nodded. He quickly pieced everything together. Alex fainted immediately after the assistant ran in announcing an emergency meeting. The video was recorded at her weakest moment. The first repost was by a bot, meaning coordinated effort. The person orchestrating it all? Richard Hale, the COO who had wanted Alex's CEO chair for years. Mike said a single sentence that made the entire room fall silent. "This isn't a PR incident. This is a planned attack. An ambush." Alex stared at him, stunned by the sharp insight of a man she had assumed was just a poor UPS driver. Mike stood up, walking toward the large glass window as if he were commanding a military operations map. The mastermind doesn't just want the video to spread. They want to use public pressure to force the board to act fast before you have the chance to respond. The assistant trembled. So, what do we do now? Mike turned back, his voice low but firm. We don't run. We don't hide. We don't defend. He looked straight at Alex, his eyes filled with a strange confidence in the woman the world was moments away from condemning. We turn that moment of weakness into proof of sacrifice. You didn't collapse because you're weak. You collapsed because you tried to stand alone for too long. Alex inhaled softly. Those words touched the deepest part of her heart. Mike continued. We'll join the meeting, publicly, without fear. But before that, he looked down at Noah, still holding his mother's hand, but calm now. You need to stand up as a mother first, then as a CEO. That simple sentence changed everything inside Alex. She looked at Mike, and for the first time, she didn't see a poor man. She saw a true leader. A man who understood that battlefields aren't just made of bombs, but also pressure, loneliness, and betrayal. Alex nodded slowly, firmly. Then help me, Mike. Help me stand, as a CEO and as a mother. Mike stepped forward and squeezed her shoulder lightly. I help people who need saving. But this time, he glanced at the two children who were holding hands. I'm helping because of all three of you. And that was the moment the destinies of two families began to shift, in a way no one in that room could have imagined. 1 hour later, the Monroe Tech shareholders meeting room was filled with a heaviness like lead. Premium leather chairs surrounded a conference table stretching dozens of feet. The LED screens were already on, and every eye was fixed on Richard Hale, the powerful COO, who now looked more self-satisfied than ever. The video of Alex fainting in the restaurant was playing on a loop on the screen. Richard folded his arms, trying to hide a smirk behind a face of concern for the company. As you can see, he began, his voice dripping with fake morality, our CEO is no longer physically or mentally stable enough to lead a billion-dollar corporation. A few shareholders nodded, others remained silent, not wanting to get dragged into a power struggle. Richard placed a hand on the table, speaking more firmly. I propose we activate the lack of executive fitness clause and elect a new CEO tonight. Everything was almost perfectly orchestrated until the meeting room doors opened. Alex walked in, with Noah and Emma walking ahead of her, hands clasped together like a naive yet powerful declaration of defiance. And behind them was Mike. Richard curled his lips. Alex, I didn't think you were strong enough to attend tonight. Alex didn't respond. She simply looked at him, with the gaze of someone who had endured enough. Mike stepped forward. His first sentence stunned the entire room. This isn't a meeting. This is the scene of a conspiracy. A shareholder frowned. And who are you? Mike paused for half a second, then replied in a calm, low voice. The one who witnessed everything? Without waiting for a follow-up, he pressed the remote for the main screen. The fainting video appeared, but this time not the viral version, but an annotated analysis of it. Mike spoke clearly. The moment Alex fainted was recorded by a low-level assistant, hired through Richard Hale's office. The room erupted into murmurs. Mike continued. Right after the video was recorded, it was sent directly to a bot account, not a real user. Its only purpose, to make it spread. Richard went pale. "You have no proof." Mike switched to the next slide. Internal emails, encrypted messages, secret meeting schedules, and the hiring documents of the assistant who filmed the video. All was displayed clearly before everyone. The oldest shareholder gripped his armrest. "Good heavens! This was an ambush!" Richard shouted, his voice cracking. "All of this is fabricated! Who even is he? Some UPS driver?" Mike didn't get angry. He simply looked at him, the look of someone who had seen enough brutal truths in life not to fear loud men. "I used to be a trauma doctor in the military. I didn't just save people. I analyzed battlefields." He turned to the board. "And tonight, I see this battlefield very clearly." The atmosphere shifted. Everyone recognized Richard was thrashing in the very trap he had set. Mike continued, his voice slower, deeper, and, above all, profoundly human. "Alex didn't faint because she's weak. She fainted because she had been fighting alone in a battle that most of you didn't even know existed." He looked at Alex, not as a subordinate, but as someone who understood her better than anyone else in the room. Real strength isn't falling. It's standing up every time you do, for the people you love. The entire room went silent. An elderly female shareholder raised her hand, her voice emotional. "Alex, do you have anything you'd like to say?" Alex stood. No trembling, no hiding, no playing the icy CEO anymore. "I'm a mother. I've been trying to balance everything. And tonight, I paid the price." She looked straight at the shareholders. "If the strength of a CEO is defined by never being allowed to fall, then I fail. But if it is defined by having the courage to stand back up, then I'm here, right now." The board exchanged looks. No one added a word. No one objected. No one felt the need to remove the woman standing before them. Only Richard, dragged out by security, kept screaming in desperation. "You'll regret this! This company will fall!" But the door closed. The sound vanished. And in the vast room, Mike simply stood there, quietly watching Alex. Noah ran over to hug his dad. No, to hug Mike, then pulled Alex closer. Emma stood beside them, holding Noah's hand. The image of the four of them standing together in the heart of a corporate power chamber, it was strangely beautiful. Not a victory of power, but a victory of truth, humanity, and presence. A shareholder blurted out, Who prepared all this analysis?" Alex lifted her eyes, proud and calm. "Michael Carter." "And what is he to the company?" Alex looked at Mike, then said the sentence that left the whole room speechless. "The only person who didn't abandon me when I needed it most." The meeting ended like a great storm dissolving, but what remained wasn't destruction. It was a strange, yet beautiful calm. Mike stood there, slightly awkward, as shareholders, people used to signing billion-dollar contracts, reached out to shake his hand and thank him. Emma held her father's hand, bouncing with joy. And Noah didn't take a single step away from Mike, as if he had just found the true hero of his life. Alex walked toward Mike, a little hesitant, not because of status, but because the emotional distance between them was disappearing. "Mike, thank you. Not just for today, but for everything." Mike was about to say something modest, but Alex gently shook her head. You didn't just save me. You saved the little world I had unknowingly lost. My son. Noah tugged on Mike's sleeve, speaking as if half scolding. Uncle Mike, don't go anywhere, okay? Emma immediately chimed in, spreading her arms like a tiny announcer. If you work with Mommy Alex, that means you'll have dinner with us more often, right? Mike laughed, a long, genuine laugh, like he was releasing 10 years of weight. Alex watched him, and this time, she didn't look away. Her voice softened, honest, unguarded. Mike, would you like to become a part of our lives? That question, not a confession of love, but the opening of a heart that had been frozen for far too long. Mike looked at Alex, then at the two children standing together like perfectly fitting puzzle pieces. He took a long breath. I can't promise to be perfect, but I promise I'll be there. Alex smiled, a rare smile, soft like the last sunlight over Seattle. That's all we need. That afternoon, they left the Monroe Tech building together. The two children ran ahead holding hands, laughter echoing through the hallway. Noah told Emma about his robots. Emma bragged that she could cook better spaghetti than the restaurant from earlier. Alex and Mike walked behind at a slower pace. When they reached the courtyard, the sunset poured across Lake Washington, turning the dark purple sky into a field of gold. A breeze brushed through Alex's hair, and for the first time in years, she felt peace. Noah turned back, shouting, Mom! Uncle Mike! Look! The two children stood in the light of the setting sun, their shadows stretching long across the ground. And then Alex's and Mike's shadows joined, forming 4 connected silhouettes. Emma beamed. It looks like a family. Noah nodded, shouting as if declaring it to the world. We're a team! Alex looked at Mike. Mike looked at Alex. No more words were needed. A new family, simple, warm, imperfect but honest, was being rewritten from the beginning. Not by blood, not by status, but by the moments they saved one another. Moments no amount of money could ever buy. And then, as if to close the turbulent journey, Mike said something that made Alex stop in her tracks. A sentence Noah and Emma would remember for the rest of their lives. Money can buy a house, but only the heart can make it a home. Alex answered softly as the breeze. And sometimes, a home shows up in the place we least expect. The Seattle sunset slowly swallowed their 4 shadows. A beautiful ending, an even more beautiful beginning. You've just watched a story from Deep Life Tales, where small moments create life-changing shifts. If this story touched you, please share your feelings in the comments and pass it on to someone who may need a reminder of the power of kindness. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next journey. Thank you for being here.